Welcome to Why Though the Podcast.
We did it. That was amazing.
Good morning. Welcome
Good morning.
to Why Though the Podcast.
Yes.
We're here.
Welcome to Why Though the
We are
Podcast.
somewhere, anyway.
Yeah, we are recording from our own homes because Oregon has experienced some weather.
We are in it.
We are
I
in
would
it.
say.
I am so sick. My feet have been cold for, I don't know, like 5 days straight and have not warmed up. And I'm sick of it.
Yeah.
Because if people, listen, I've seen some comments made on social media trying to disparage this good state about receiving snow. And like, listen, I know my family lives in Minnesota, so I understand that other places experience snow in a different way. I one time was in Minnesota for the winter, and I thought I would never experience warmth again. That is
I don't go there for
truly
that reason.
an amount of snow that no person should have to live through. What people I don't think understand about Oregon is it's not snow. It looks like snow. It's ice. It's ice.
Yeah. And also what's happening right now is different because it's been like below 20 degrees, which we're not used to ever. I mean, I remember as a child once I skied. I was on the ski team, and I remember once going up to the mountain and it was 15 degrees. And I was like, I was on the ski team.
Wow.
So my senior year, I was 76th in the state of Oregon.
I've
You're
never
looking
even
at an expert.
I never even thought about the concept of a ski team existing because I'm not from a place where that would ever exist.
In Florida, that's not quite.
Wow, ski team.
Yeah, it was fun. It was really fun.
That's cool.
And boy is boy, girl, like gender mixed team, so extra fun. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh yeah, I remember once it was 15 degrees and I was like, this is not acceptable. And our power went out here for over about 24 hours. And I'm writing about this today because we stuck it out until 6 a.m. on Sunday morning. We woke up after all sleeping together in one bed with every blanket in the house. And I was like, no, we have to leave.
Yeah.
We can no longer be here. And my parents were out of power too. So I found a hotel that let us go in the morning.
Yeah.
But it was like, I have a new house. It's well insulated, and we stayed relatively okay up until, 6 a.m. So, the next day. And yeah, it's just too cold outside.
Yeah.
Which
a lot of people without power. We're seeing people out in the elements die from hypothermia. Like, it's no joke.
People who are giving us trouble about it, they're not here.
Yeah.
I mean, it's when Texas, remember? Well, actually, I think Texas is going through it again. Like, got really cold in Texas, and the power went out, and
because the grid couldn't handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, human beings need to be at a certain temperature to live.
Yeah. So, luckily, I'm so glad that you guys have power again. Some of our coworkers are still without power. Luckily,
we don't have hot water, but we do have power. So, would love to take a shower, but not.
Yeah. Luckily, we have maintained power. It's me, my roommate, and my dog, and we have stayed cozy warm, thankfully.
Except for your feet.
Except for my feet, but that's more of like an autoimmune thing, I think, than anything else. But we're here. We're doing it for you guys, and we're so excited to be here. Thank you for listening to Why Though the Podcast. This is the podcast where we take Lizzy Acker's critically acclaimed, in my opinion, advice column from the Oregonian, and we turn it into this very podcast that you're listening to, where she gives you great advice for your life. You can read all of her old podcasts old columns and upcoming columns at OregonLive.com/whytho, WHYTHO, the cool spelling. And if you are just craving more Lizzy Acker, you can text her.
You can text me. Oh, shoot. You can text me. I'm so used to having it this one way. Okay, so text the word advice to 503-751-8731 and then click the link and subscribe.
Yeah, that's how you get more of Lizzy Acker in your life. Yeah. And I can't recommend it more.
I'd love to text you.
Yeah.
Love to.
But we do. We have a question from a listener / reader / viewer today. Because, by the way, you can see our lovely faces. Yeah. Normally we're in a studio where we sit today you'll just see our lovely little floating heads. But
These
you can,
guitars are my husband's, so don't ask me questions about them. You
yeah,
can't ask me questions about my hair because
I love it.
I think I'm growing my hair out. So be
Oh,
prepared for like a lot of awkward hairdos coming up.
I love that. It is a process. This hair where I'm at right now is grown out from a full pixie cut, so it is a process, and I
Yeah, it's
respect it.
perfect.
Um,
Yeah.
so you can watch us on the Oregonians YouTube channel, if you didn't know that. So if you're ready, Lizzy, to give some
I
advice,
am. I
I
am.
will
Let's hear the
read our question.
question.
All right. It goes, Dear Lizzy, I wonder if you can help me with a question about hearing loss. My dad is in his late 80s and lives across the country, so we chat regularly on the phone. He's a great talker, but I know he struggles to hear and understand me. I'm about to go for a visit and I'm trying to strategize how to communicate. He stopped wearing his hearing aids because he just finds them too upsetting, despite multiple efforts to work with his provider to adjust them. I tried to project, lower my pitch, and make eye contact, but it's still hard. How can I help my dad understand me in person and on the phone? The thing is, I have some hearing loss too, so I get it. Restaurants and other noisy places are torture. I tried all the tricks, like sitting against a wall or window, never with my back to the crowd, that kind of thing. Hearing aids kind of help, but nothing sounds, quote, normal, unquote. And it's still exhausting trying to make out people's words. I have to push myself hard to socialize because I know how frustrating many social situations will be. I don't want to be isolated, and I don't want my dad to be isolated. How can we help each other out?
Wow, this is a hard question. As you're reading it, I'm
Yeah.
like, you know what? I think I might need to bring in an expert for this one that we don't have here on the podcast right now. But
Yeah.
I think we can talk about it. And then I think, you guys are watching this happen in real time. I think I should probably talk to somebody
I think so
who has
too.
experience with like maybe an audiologist or like elder because
Yeah, someone who's hard of
yeah, this is
hearing.
really hard because I know that it's hard. Like my mom wears hearing aids. She wears them most of the time now, but it took a long time to convince her to get hearing aids. And there was a lot of time in there that was like she I mean the human brain is so amazing. It fills in the gaps in
Mm-hmm.
ways that when you can't hear, like her brain would create like think that she had heard something, think that we were saying one thing and we had not even
Right.
remotely. And I think that's why we finally were able to convince her to do it. 'Cause we're like, you are not understanding our conversation. But yeah, to figure out how best to communicate with someone, especially over the phone.
Yeah,
That's hard. I
I
mean, my
think so.
initial thoughts are like, you know, is it easier if you're FaceTiming? Like, can he read lips at all? I don't know. I think it's easier when you're directly looking at someone,
Mm-hmm.
for them if they can read lips at all. And also in person, being face to face, directly looking at someone, the sound is better.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which obviously this person who wrote the letter knows because they are also a little bit hard of hearing. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, after I've sent you this question and been like, let's talk about this, I'm like, can we talk about it? I think I need to get an expert on this one. Destiny.
I think an expert definitely needs to weigh in, but I know
Yeah.
that
Do you have some thoughts?
there definitely are programs to help people who are hard of hearing through the phone.
Mm-hmm.
So I think
Mm-hmm.
maybe exploring some of those options,
Yeah.
and working with your father to see if he's maybe open to some of those, I think is great. I think, just anecdotally,
Mm-hmm.
this certainly is not everybody, but as people age, they tend to, some people lose their hearing. And I think, in the same way that eyesight it goes, it tends to start to be a battle sometimes between children and their
Yeah.
parents
Mm-hmm.
with, wearing the corrective, things to go
Yeah.
with them. And
Right.
I'm seeing that your dad has tried and really given it the good college try with the hearing aids, and they're not for him.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Technology has come a long way. So
Yes.
maybe,
Hearing aids are so much better now.
yeah, so maybe
Mm-hmm.
going to a different audiologist, maybe
Mm-hmm.
seeking different technology, maybe giving it another go. might really behoove him, because I understand that, I understand your concern about the overwhelmingness becoming so overwhelming that he then becomes sort of a recluse, just out of that anxiety that comes from that. And nobody wants that. You don't want that for your dad. I'm sure your dad doesn't want that. You said he's a great talker, so it seems like he's really
Right.
engaged with people. Um, and so maybe if you can find a doctor that's willing to work. There are doctors, as somebody who frequents doctors, not for hearing issues, but frequents doctors for lots
Right.
of other things, lots of specific things. There are doctors who are willing to work with you
Yeah.
on your specificities. So if you can find one, I think it will really make a world of difference. And having the patience to do that can be really frustrating.
And maybe while
I can
you're
get that.
there, yeah, you know, if you're going to visit your dad soon, like maybe you could help him make an appointment that you could go to.
Yeah.
Because I know that sometimes going to the doctor by yourself can be intimidating.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you might forget to ask them all the things or be like embarrassed to be like, this is hard for me. I'm having trouble with this. And if your dad is up for it, maybe you guys go together. You know, maybe you
Yeah.
make an appointment and you go with him and you help him talk to the audiologist because you are aware of his needs. And there is,
Mm-hmm.
I believe, and again, I am, all viewers, all listeners, I'm going to reach out to an expert. So
Yeah.
tune in next week for my column.
Yes.
But I know that there's research that links, you know, hearing loss with earlier like dementia and you know that kind of mental capacity loss
Sure.
because and if you correct the hearing it fixes that problem because you know that it's so important to connect with people
Mm-hmm.
and to like connect with the world, like that's part of being a person. So
Yeah. I think
yeah.
you should also talk to your dad and see what he's
Mhm.
open to. You know what I mean? Like, you
Yes,
might be
yeah.
shocked about what he is really open to. Maybe there's some sort of like talk to text service. Maybe you guys could start texting more often and the text could be read aloud to
Mhm.
him, stuff like that, and to keep
Yeah.
sort of in touch in the interim while you
Yeah,
work out
emailing, I
something.
mean,
Yeah.
like
I
send
have
him an email.
it's an auditory processing issue. There's nothing the matter with my hearing, but I have a hard time understanding somebody if I can't watch their mouth while they're talking.
Mhm.
So I have to sit. I'm always like the person who sits in the front of the class, because
Mhm.
my eyesight's not that good.
Mhm.
So there's like little adjustments that you have to make that are quite big adjustments. So maybe he's just not making some of the adjustments that he needs to make, and he doesn't even know he's not making them.
Yeah.
So maybe if you just have like a real frank discussion with him about some of the adjustments he needs to make, maybe you can help him make them, and it might help in a big way.
Yeah.
Just opening a line of dialogue, and it sounds like you're doing that, which is really great. I think it's so
Yeah.
sweet that you are
Yeah.
both able to relate and also concerned about your dad in this way.
Yeah. And I
Which
think that's really important that you're
yeah.
considering it and that you're going to go visit. I mean, the reality is talking on the phone, it's not the best way to communicate. And you're going to see him in person and it's going to be a lot easier. You know,
Hmm.
once, even some, like now my mom doesn't have her hearing aids in or whatever, it can be like hard to communicate. But once I look at her and I say what I'm saying,
Hmm.
she figures it. She knows.
Right.
She can
Yeah.
hear me. So it's a lot easier in person. And then you can also sort of manage where you go. You know, like you can go out to dinner, but it's even you could even call ahead and be like, just how noisy is it
Right.
there?
Yeah.
Because you can find quiet places to be and quiet booths and stuff like
Hmm.
that. And that ambient noise can be really distracting and difficult, especially, I mean, if you have hearing aids or not, but I know even when you have hearing aids it's still hard. So
Yeah, and it's okay to ease into that kind of stuff too.
mhm.
Like, it's okay to accommodate yourself. I shouldn't have to say that, but as somebody who sometimes needs permission to accommodate herself, I'm giving you permission and your father permission to accommodate yourself, especially as you're like moving forward into this sort of hearing loss
Yeah.
journey. You know, it's going to be difficult, and I'm sure you're seeing the challenges now, and they're going to persist because this isn't something that corrects itself, unfortunately. It
Yeah.
tends to get worse.
Right.
So it's
And
kind
being
that you're
honest with him
yes.
about like how you also have the same experience, because I think another thing with hearing loss especially is that, and lots of things that can be signs of aging, make people feel bad. You
Yeah.
know, like
Yeah.
they don't
Yeah.
want to admit it, and
There's like a
that is
stigma.
reasonable. Yeah, there's a stigma. So if you can be like, look, I also am impacted by this. It doesn't mean you're like old or like over
Yeah.
the hill or like unable to function or dying. It's something we can fix. It's something we can correct. And the quality of your life, which, you know, could go on 20 more years. You want to be able to hear,
Yeah.
right? So, I mean, ultimately for us, it was like, do you want to be able to talk to your grandkids?
Yeah.
No.
I think calling in an expert on this one is a really good idea. If you folks at home listening right now don't know, this podcast comes out on Thursdays wherever you get your podcasts, and then the following Tuesday at organlive.com/why though. This podcast comes out attached to Lizzie's column. That comes out much more fleshed out and more succinct. And if she reaches out to like a
I am.
specialist or somebody, then
That's my
all of that will be in there. So I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to hearing from the specialist and reading your column
Yeah.
that'll come out
I'm
on
gonna
Tuesday.
find one.
So
Yeah, I think that this is a good opportunity to talk to someone who's an expert in the field.
yeah, I
And
don't
I'm
know
sure
much
that I
about
can
it,
find
so
one.
I'm
Yeah,
interested.
me either.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, do you want to do Smash or Pass, Destiny?
I do. Do you have any locked and loaded? I was thinking as I was getting this whole thing like
Yeah.
situated, what
hmm
mine might be. I have a pass.
Yeah, like I think we have passes sewn up this week. Yeah, I have a Smash, I think.
Okay, well, you can go first.
Um, okay, well, my Smash, I guess, is like community, if that
Oh.
makes sense. I was so, this whole weather thing has been a bummer,
Hmm.
obviously, but the good thing that it really reminded me and showed me, like when our power went out, all of our neighbors were texting each other, kind of looking out for each other. Even before, my friends and I and the around town are texting each other. When our power went out, multiple people offered to let us come stay at their house. And the only reason we didn't is because I was like, oh, the power's coming back on. And then by the time I was like, it's too cold, it was 6 a.m. and I wasn't gonna text anyone except for my parents who also didn't have power. So, but it really reminded me how lucky I am to like live around such nice, kind people, all of whom wanted to help. We all wanted to help each other, but I just felt so many people were like ready and willing to help me and my family, and that was awesome.
Yeah, that's very sweet. I live out in the burbs. I
Mhm.
think Lizzie has called it the country, jokingly. I don't live that far from Portland.
It looks like the country when you're
It
out
does.
there.
It does. I just
I'm
live.
sorry.
I live
It's
in.
adorable. It's lovely.
Yeah, I live in unincorporated Clackamas County, in Milwaukee out
The
here,
country.
and yeah, and it's just like a little suburban neighborhood. It's lots of old
So
people live
cute.
out here, and so
It's like a
we
forest also. Are
yeah,
your trees
lots of
okay?
trees, lots of trees. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the ice storm last year knocked down a lot of trees. So we're
Okay.
hoping that took care of the ones that needed to come down. Anyways, I was convalescing in Florida when that happened, so I didn't have to deal with that.
Nice.
But we've made friends with lots of people who live in the neighborhood. My neighbors across the street have the chickens, so we've been checking in on the neighbors across the street and also the chickens. Everything's fine.
Mhm.
We have a neighbor who lives down the street that we call Farmer John, who
Mhm.
gives us apples and lots of produce all year. And
I
he's
love
as
that you're like telling me this isn't the country, but we get chickens and apples. Apples from our farmer neighbor.
and I saw him on my walk yesterday with my dog, which was more like an icy shuffle than anything around the block. And Farmer John was un icing his walkway, and he was doing fine. And
Good,
um,
good, good.
checking on the neighbors. It was a very
Mhm.
community walk, and everyone was out,
Good.
and because nobody had seen anybody in a few days, and
Uh-huh.
so yeah, I yes, in times of dire stress, it's nice to check on your neighbors, essentially.
Yeah, it really is.
I agree. My smash is gonna be crocheting. I'm a person with hobbies, many hobbies. I like arts and crafts. I flip between hobbies. I don't Here's the thing. If I try something and I'm not good at it quickly, I'm really
You're
not
like, I'm
interested in it.
ready for the next thing.
Yes, because I'm somebody who's often, not to brag, good at things quickly,
Whoa.
crafty
Well, it
things.
sounded like a brag to me, but I don't know if the
Things that
listeners,
things that don't really matter. You know what I mean? Like,
they matter.
oh, she can glue rhinestones in a straight line. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not
That's
put
hard though.
I'm
Yes.
not putting it on my CV, you know?
Okay. Maybe you
So
should.
I have tried many crafts in my day. Crochet is really the only one I've stuck with for any prolonged amount of time. I've been crocheting for
Mhm.
about 15 years. I'm surprised that I don't have like the gnarled hands of, a really old lady, because they feel that way.
Yeah.
However, I recently shared the joys of crocheting with my best friend, and it is bringing me a lot of joy to share an old lady craft with a friend, but also, like, it's bringing me a lot of joy to see somebody else get into something that I enjoy so much and, like, share their progress with me,
Mhm.
because it reminds me that there's still progress to be had. Um,
Right.
and so I'm really enjoying that, especially now that we're having so many inside days.
Mhm.
When the sunshine is out, I feel like I should be out and about, because the sun in
Totally.
Oregon is such a wonderful commodity,
Yeah.
and you feel like you should frolic in it.
It's very
Um,
special.
yes, and it's so good. You know what I mean? It's like not never really too hot.
Mhm.
Um, but when there are inside days, I feel like I should be making someone a sweater or something, and I love that time for me. But my friend is making like a little Snoopy right now, and it's just going so
Oh,
well for them, and it looks so great, and it brings
so
me a lot of
cute.
joy. So, if you're into
I love that.
crocheting, uh,
Crocheting.
thread me, whatever. I don't know, we can't call it tweets anymore, but I'm on Threads, and you can thread me.
Yeah. Thread her. That's actually pretty apt for crocheting,
There,
right? So,
exactly.
I was realizing the other day that like I really like to cook and bake,
Yeah,
and sometimes I'm good, sometimes I'm not. Like I like to experiment
yeah, I love
and
that.
mess up. But I was like, baking and cooking is really crafting just with food.
Yeah, but
And what
you
I
get to
like
eat at
about
the
it,
end.
you get to eat it, and
Yeah,
then you can just throw it away if you don't eat it.
yeah,
We were talking about this before. Like, you don't want to feel bad about like the joy is the process,
yeah,
right? Not necessarily the end result. Like when I was knitting a lot, I would just make a bunch of like scarves and hats, and then be like, "What do I do with this stuff?"
yeah. You could donate
I
them.
Yeah, I'm sure I gave them to people,
Yeah,
but um, baking, you never have to worry.
yeah,
You eat it. I
yeah.
made
And
these
if you
delicious
can't eat,
scones.
everyone
Yeah,
wants it.
totally. And I
Yeah.
was like, yeah, I made scones before the power went out. And I was like, thank goodness we got something to eat. Okay, so what is our pass? I mean, I don't want to go as general as global climate change, but I do kind of feel like I might. I mean, but on the other hand, we'll say that's my past. But here's the thing: I'm thinking about it as like it's time to accept that this is happening. In this way, I'm almost like this event has made people I know more into preppers, right? Like
Oh,
we're like looking up batteries that can power our house,
yeah.
and with solar, and um because this is the way it is now. Like we have to be prepared for climate chaos.
Mhm.
And I think for anyone, but especially when you have a little kid, it's like I was thinking before we left, I was like, well, I read this book, which I've talked about on this podcast a bunch, Prophet Song,
Yeah.
amazing book. But it left me with this thought that is like, will I know when to leave? And when I woke up
Mm.
in the morning and it was so cold, I was like, did I miss it? Did I miss when I was supposed to leave? Which is like kind of the scary thing.
I mean, we deal with this during hurricane season all the time. And I watch vulnerable populations, people in trailers. And we know
Mhm.
that a rip-roaring hurricane's coming through, and we watch people stay. And I'm like, God
Right.
bless you. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
people
Like,
who
do
will
you know when to
stay,
leave?
who
Mhm.
will stay in I mean, there are people who are in two camps, people who will go and people who will stay. And
Mhm.
it will always be that way.
Yeah.
It's just
Right.
it is interesting.
But you still have to
Um,
decide when to leave. And like
some
if you
people
miss
don't
it,
though.
you miss
Some people
it. Right.
don't.
Some people don't. But like it's this human desire to have everything be normal.
Yes.
And then so I'm like, it's normal. It's just gonna come back on. It's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
It's gonna be fine. And then you're like, oh, it's not coming back on.
Yeah.
And so when did I miss it? Did I miss my chance to
Yeah.
leave? Anyway, so just the fear, that fear is what
Yeah.
I will pass on. But it is also like, I think what we have to accept and then start dealing with it. By getting
Bleak.
batteries and backups and, you know.
That is a pass.
I'm trying to find hope. That's a pass.
Yeah, I agree. Hope is a smash. All of the rest of that is a pass.
Okay.
Mine's gonna be the U.S. pharmaceutical system, not
Oh,
pharmacists or
just the whole system.
or the workers that work there. God bless them. The system in which they have to work under as well, right?
Right.
This has,
Oh yeah, they aren't happy.
no, right. This has nothing to do with them. I want to be very clear. They're beholden to it. It is silly, goofy time. I tweeted, I threaded about this. I gotta stop saying tweeted because that doesn't even exist anymore. But I threaded about this. Listen, I'm a well-oiled jalopy in that I am on a cocktail of medications that keep me alive. I'm off 2 of those medications right now, and I'm limping, mentally and physically.
Why?
Because I just, like, can't fill them. And it's, like, a manufacturer issue, and they're like, "Shrug." And there's nothing the pharmacists can do. They're like, "Shrug." And so then I reached out to the doctors, and the doctors are like, "We can try and fill it at another pharmacy." And I was like, "Yeah, but they said it was a manufacturer issue." And they were like, "Yeah, that's a bummer." And I was like, "Okay, well, what are we supposed to do?" And they're like,
Right.
"We don't really know." Okay.
What?
So, I know I'm not the only person that this kind of thing happens to
No.
regularly.
But it's horrible.
Yeah, and it's a little bit of a bummer because,
and it's scary.
It sure is, yeah. Because like, what if this were happening to somebody's, like, I don't know, like blood thinners or something? You know what I mean? Something that, like, I don't know, could cause like a really life-threatening situation. What if I were less well? Like I am like less well than most people that I know, but I'm like not so unwell that this is gonna like be the end of me. I'm just like tired.
Yeah.
But
last year, there was a point when my daughter was sick. She had an ear infection or something, and there was just the antibiotic she needed just wasn't anywhere.
That's
It was just out.
For an antibiotic to be out is insane.
What? Like, what do you mean?
Right.
That's what? I finally did get it at the hospital pharmacy.
Yeah, that's where I'm headed next.
I was calling and calling, and I was like, what do I do?
Yeah. At this point, one of them is filled, thankfully. Okay. I'm still down 2 other ones, which is fine. One of them is filled. It's a Target. I can't get it right now because there's ice in the way, which is that's fine. So that's promising. But I'm down an inhaler and a stimulant.
That's not ideal.
Yeah. So, what a racket. Everything about the American healthcare system is a racket, except for the people who care that work within it and have to work within its constraints. Certainly not. Has nothing to do with them. Thank you for all your hard work.
I mean, I think, when I was trying to get a COVID vaccine for my daughter earlier this year, I felt bad for the doctor at the pharmacy giving me the shot because I was like, because I got it and they were like, oh, actually, we don't have it for kids. We don't have the flu vaccine. We don't. And I was like, why did you let me make an appointment? And he's like, it's horrible. Please call corporate.
Yeah.
Please ask them to fix this problem. I think that they were just as upset. So
yeah. I mean, like, especially the retail pharmacies, like your CVS's and stuff like that. Like it is retail. Like they are beholden to,
and they have to, oh my gosh. Every time you're in there too, you hear someone who's just like struggling. They're like, sorry, your insurance says we actually can't cover this for like 5 more days.
Yeah, and then they're yelling at the pharmacist. And
I know,
like, it's not the pharmacist's fault. Anyways,
that's a computer system that's telling them that.
Yeah, so what a racket. And I mean, people who are on prescription medication of any type, you're paying money again for them because your deductible has reset. So it's just a real 1-2 punch of nonsense.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, yeah.
But 2024
on the bright side,
it was gonna get great. Oh yeah.
I wanted to make a correction to our last podcast, which is I said that the book that I was reading, the Encyclopedia of Fairies, I in fact have it right here.
Ooh.
There it is.
Nice.
I said it was set in the 1990s. I meant to say it's set in the 1900s. It's which is still true. It's set in 1909.
Okay.
Which makes it make more sense.
That makes a little more sense.
Right, because she's creating an encyclopedia. That's the time that they were creating encyclopedias. It's still really good.
You know what? Corrections. Glad we got some.
Yep. We're journalists. We're real journalists.
Awesome. We are journalists.
Anyway.
Well, lovely. Do we have more time, or is it time to go?
I mean, know. It's basically time to go. We have some time for parting thoughts, if you have parting thoughts.
Parting thoughts. Well, my main thought is that I hope next week we get to be together in the studio. I think we can, yeah. The roads are clear, and you have all your medication that you need.
Me too.
And yeah, I get to take a shower sometime between now and then, I hope, for you.
I would welcome you to my home to take a shower, but you wouldn't be able to make it into this neighborhood because it's full of ice.
No. That's... we can boil water. I can do like a little house on the prairie bath if I need to, but I think we're gonna. I mean, I know that it's gonna warm up enough today. We just have like an on-demand water heater, which is cool and great in general, but then it also means we don't have like a water tank full of hot water.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, well, next week will be better, and this ice will be just a memory.
A memory will be like, what was that? Easy peasy, lemon squeezy.
Yeah, and if you want to complain about the ice, you can do that by texting Lizzy.
You should. Text me. Text the word advice to 503-751-8731 and then click the link and subscribe today.
There you go. And thank you so much for joining us for Why Though the Podcast. We will catch y'all next week.
Bye.
Bye.
For listening to Why Though the Podcast. Subscribe for weekly episodes wherever you listen to podcasts, and don't forget to leave us a 5-star review. If you're looking for more Why Though, check out my column that comes out every Tuesday on OregonLive.com. You can support our local journalism by going to OregonLive.com/pod support.